Hey, what's going on, everybody? Justin here at Trumpful Reads, and in this video, we're going to be doing my TBR for a really cool readathon that I heard about, and it's the Tome Infinity and Beyond readathon. And as you guys could probably guess, it's all about science fiction, sci-fi, and space and stuff like that. So it sounded really cool. It's very creative. It was created by Megan and Alessandra at Brushing Bookends, and then there's a whole bunch of co-hosts, and I got my list here, so don't forget anybody, hopefully. And we got Sam at Sarcasm and Sci-Fi, Kat from Brews and Reviews, Steph from Novelty Corner, Megan and Susan at the Restricted Section, Jessica and Christina at Game of Tomes, and Ashley from Don't Have a Degree in Reading. Now, this was a really cool and creative readathon idea. Basically, Earth is going to get annihilated from something, so we have to escape on a spaceship of some kind. And there's different options for different spaceships and stuff like that. And then we have to go to different planets, and depending on which planet you go to, there's different challenges. And then when you leave those planets to go to other planets, you have different options and things of that nature. So it's really cool. I'll leave a link to the original announcement video down below. So yeah, let's just get started. And we had four options of which spaceship to leave on, and I picked the one for the asteroid belt. And you will see right here, because I'm going to read Packing for Mars by Mary Roach. I know it's not really sci-fi, but it's all about basically living in outer space, so I thought it'd fit pretty well. She's an author I really wanted to read for a while. She's kind of like a comedic nonfiction writer on a whole bunch of topics, but I've never read her before. And that is the challenge for the asteroid belt, which is to read an author that's brand new to you. So that fit the bill really well. And basically, my plan was to go to Mars, packing for Mars. But apparently, our captain and pilot just really suck, and we're going to end up in the asteroid belt. So yeah, that's going to be my first book. Now, once we're at the asteroid belt, we have a couple options, and I decided we're going to be going to Mercury. And the challenge for Mercury is to read a book under 250 pages, and I'm going with Gene Wolfe's Shadow of the Torturer. And this is a omnibus edition of Shadow of the Torturer and Claw of the Conciliator. So even though it's more than 250 pages, the first book is less than 250 pages, so that one counts. And basically, I've read Gene Wolfe a long time ago. I didn't finish the book. I started this, I read a couple chapters, and I really enjoyed it, which is kind of saying a lot considering I never read fiction or fantasy or anything like that. But because it's fantasy or sci-fi, basically, I just didn't continue with it at the time. But now that I'm reading a lot more, fiction type stuff, I decided I'm gonna give Gene Wolfe another try and see what goes on. I've heard really good things about it, and as you can see, well, maybe not. Neil Gaiman has said this is the best SF novel of the last century. So I thought that was pretty good praise. Basically, there's a generation ship and stuff, so it definitely fits sci-fi, at least to some degree. So yeah, that's my book for Mercury. And now that we're at Mercury, this planet sucks. It's tiny. It's just terrible. We're gonna go to the sun. I have no idea how we're supposed to live on the sun or anything, but I guess it's better than just staying at home on Earth and dying. So we're gonna try and use our special spaceship to live on the sun. And because of it's the sun, the challenge was to read a book with a solar-based event. And I went with Jack Vance's Dying Earth because that was about as solar-based event as I could think of. Basically, the Earth has turned into a red giant and sort of has allowed magic and stuff to sort of come back into existence and that sort of thing. So I thought that was really cool. I read the first one and I thought it was okay. It was definitely really quirky and weird, but I kind of liked it. It was very, I don't know, it almost felt like video gaming, even though it was from I think the 50s or 60s or something. But yeah, the second one is The Eyes of the Overworld, and like I said, this is my omnibus edition with the first four novels, I guess. I don't know if they're all short stories or not. The first book is just a bunch of short stories, kind of loosely, fairly, or I'd say, yeah, pretty loosely connected with each other. But it's just a really cool, quirky world, and as you see, that definitely fits sci-fi in my book. I think this takes place, several thousand years in the future, obviously, or millions of years in the future. So I think it's pretty cool. Definitely want to keep giving this series a try. Like I said, it was very quirky, but it was quirky in a really good way, I guess. I don't know. It probably didn't come out quite as good as when I was saying it earlier, but yeah, I did enjoy it, and I'm going to definitely be reading the second book. Alright, so now that we're at the sun, I have a couple more options, and we're going to go from the sun all the way to the other extreme, and it's going to be Pluto. And basically, Pluto's challenge is to read a vintage sci-fi book, which is at least 25 plus years old. And I could not find a way around any of my books, like, to get around that challenge. But, however, Robert E. Howard, the author of, like, the whole Conan universe and Brett McMorran and King Cole and stuff, he apparently had one, like, legit sci-fi book that he put out, and that would have been, like, in the 20s or 30s or something, so it's very vintage, and it's, Almeric, and I don't know really anything about it. I'll probably read it on the Kindle edition unless I can find one at, like, the used bookstore or something. But basically we have, Esau Cairn, and he's basically transported to a whole nother planet, basically John Carter style or something. I think after he, like, murders his boss or something for being, like, a punk or something. So basically he goes to, like, another planet and has to, like, help them, save them from something or other. But yeah, it was very vintage sci-fi. I have no idea what I'm getting into, but I really like Robert E. Howard stuff, so I figured, might as well read the one science fiction book that Robert E. Howard put out. So that's my book for vintage sci-fi for the challenge for Pluto. And I'm definitely not going to be staying on Pluto. Pluto is just tiny and cold, just horrible. So I'm going to try and squeeze in 2 more bonus books, if I can, but we're going to see. I'm going to go from Pluto just next door to Neptune, and the challenge for that is to read a sci-fi book with fantasy themes. And that's, like, perfect for Crown of Shadows, the 3rd book in the Coldfire trilogy. If I can finish this will be the first trilogy or series that I've been able to finish this year so far. I started this all the way back in January, the first book, so I definitely just, like, need to get it over with. However, this is, like, my favorite, just, like, weird series that I've started this year. I just really enjoy it. The first book has quite a bit of flaws, the second book has a few flaws, but still, just overall, the whole concept of the planet Urna and stuff is just insane. I can't say enough good things about this series. I know it won't be for everyone, but basically, just the big rundown is, future humans have to, like, leave Earth. They colonize another planet called Urna. Urna is just basically a terrible hellhole because there's, like, sort of this thing called the Fae, or the Fae stream, which is basically sort of this, like, how do I explain it? It's just, like, this part of the environment, basically, but your thoughts, like, kind of alter it to a pretty big degree. So if you basically, and it's almost all negative thoughts. I mean, if you, like, fear too much, basically things will spawn based on your fears, making you fear more, and it's just, like, a horrible spiral of just, like, horribleness. But yeah, like I said, it's sci-fi and fantasy mixed together. It's a very good blend of science fantasy, so I think that fits Neptune's challenge pretty well. But I'm really excited to finally finish the series and see what happens. Plus, as you see, Gerald Tarrant is, like, one of the coolest, like, characters that I've read in fantasy or fiction or whatever, pretty much of all time. He's pretty swag. Excited to finish this book. And if I finish that one in time... Oh, and also, before I forget, it takes place from September 7th through September 21st, so you get 2 weeks to try and read basically whatever you want. I think the idea is to read 1 challenge for the spaceship and then 3 more planets. But it's pretty laid back. Alright, now from Neptune, we're going to be going to the final planet for the last challenge, and it's going to be Uranus, or more commonly known as Uranus. And for the challenge, obviously, it's going to be a comic relief. And if I get to it, I'm going to be listening to this audiobook, and it's going to be How I Killed Pluto and Why It Had It Coming by Mike Brown. I know it's not really sci-fi, but I just felt like that'd be, like, a really good comedic book about destroying one of the planets that I've basically been to before. I just think it'd be really funny. I think Mike Brown is actually I think he was one of the guys that found the first exoplanet, or another planet, besides the 8 in Pluto that we have now. And basically that started the whole ball rolling on, is Pluto actually a planet? Should we count it? And, obviously eventually it got to the consensus where no, Pluto shouldn't be a planet. And I definitely agree with that. So I thought it'd be kind of a fun book just to finish things off, even though I know it's not really science fiction per se, but it's very space related. It's still, in the same vein, in the spirit of things. So that'll be the 6th and final book, if I get to it, for the Tome Infinity and Beyond. readathon. And like I said, this video or this readathon was really cool and creative. Like I said, I'm not really into sci-fi, but I try to fit in some like science fantasy type books and some space nonfiction and stuff like that into it. So I think I don't know. I hope it'll turn out pretty well. So there you guys have it. Leave a link down below if you're also going to be participating in this readathon, or if you have other science fantasy books that you'd like to recommend to me. Leave those in the comments down below. I'd definitely be glad to check them out or check your videos out. And whatever you guys decide to read, whether you're doing this readathon or not, always remember, read victoriously.